From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. The Philippines Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, on Thursday announced that the Philippine government has successfully secured the provisional release of 17 overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, 12 men and 5 women who were arrested and detained in Qatar for illegal protest. In a Palace Press briefing, Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo said that upon learning of the incident, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. immediately ordered the DMW, the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, and the Philippine Embassy in Doha to intervene and provide legal and welfare assistance. Kakdak said that around 20 OFWs were arrested in a resort in Doha at around 10:30 in the evening on March 27th, including 3 minors who were immediately released. However, he explained that while they have regained their liberty, the 17 OFWs remain under investigation and are prohibited from leaving Qatar until the case is resolved.
Upon directive of the President, since he learned about the arrests of the around 20 Filipinos, OFWs, in a resort in Doha, Qatar last March 27, gabi, around 10:30, he immediately directed the Department of Migrant Workers, of course, in partnership under the same one-country team with the DFA and our embassy in Doha, to provide legal and welfare assistance to the 20 who were arrested. More specifically, first and foremost, ang tanong ng Presidente, kamusta na sila? Their welfare, their well-being. Kaya't nagkaroon tayo ng welfare visits where the 20 were held. There were 12 males, there are 12 males and 5 females and 3 minors. And of course, we know na unang nakalaya yung 3 minor de edad, naiwan yung 12 kalalakihan and 5 na kababaihan in separate detention or jail facilities. The second and more important, should I say, directive of the President was to secure their immediate release. And with gladness, we report today that, of course, based on the President's directive to secure the immediate release of the 17 who are still detained, the Qatari authorities, in 2 separate batches, the males at around 2:30 a.m. Qatari time, and the females around 4 a.m. Qatari time, were provisionally released pending investigation. So this means they have their liberty pending investigation. They're able to all go home to their respective homes in Qatar.
Kakdak also confirmed that no formal charges have been filed so far, and the Philippine government would continue providing legal support should the case proceed further. Despite the legal challenges, Kakdak emphasized that the Marcos administration remains committed to protecting and assisting all OFWs regardless of their circumstances.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang on Thursday said the 17% tariff that the United States will impose on Philippine exports beginning April 9th will only have a minimal impact. In a Palace Press briefing, Presidential Communications Office, or PCO Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the tariff that will be imposed on the Philippines is lower compared to tariff rates set for other countries. Castro, citing the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI's statement, said, "The impact of the U.S.'s latest move on the Philippines would just be very minimal." The U.S. imposed higher tariffs on other Southeast Asian countries, including Cambodia at 49%, Vietnam at 46%, Myanmar at 45%, Thailand 36%, Indonesia 32%, and Malaysia at 24%. Only Singapore will face a baseline 10% tariff rate. Castro said the U.S.'s reciprocal tariff policy may benefit the Philippines, as some countries slapped with higher tariffs may consider investing in the country instead.
Desisyon po kasi ng gobyerno ng US yan. Kung meron po silang dapat na pangalagaan patungkol sa kanilang mga economic growth nila or sa kanilang mga ekonomiya, hindi po ito mapipigilan. Yan po ang kanilang magiging polisiya. At sabi nga po natin, ang pagpataw po ng 17% na second lowest, sa ating palagay ay hindi na po ganon kasama. Mabuti pa rin po ito sa ating palagay. Pwede po kasi maging positibo ito, pwedeng maging negatibo ito, lalo kapag ka po tayo nag-e-export. Pero kapag ka po nanatili ang ganitong klaseng polisiya, maaari pa rin din po tayo makakuha ng mga investors mula doon sa mga bansa na may pinapatawan ng malalaking tariff. So maaari silang pumunta sa Pilipinas, dito sila magsagawa, mag-manufacture, dahil 17% lamang ang pinapataw sa atin. So pwedeng negative, positive ito.
Was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture, or DA, said the agriculture sector should not be worried about the 17% tariff to be imposed by the United States on Philippine exports to the U.S. In a press briefing in Quezon City, Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said this can still be considered as good news because 17% is small compared to the export tariff imposed by the U.S. on Philippine competitors in terms of export. According to Secretary Laurel, the U.S. imposed 46% tariff on Vietnam while 36% was imposed on Thailand. Because of this, Laurel sees a huge opportunity for the Philippines to export its product to the U.S.
As a general perspective, positive yun sa atin. Yan mas mababa tayo sa iba in terms of tariff. But of course, kailangan natin tingnan yung per commodity. No? Isda. Definitely, kung tinasabi natin tilapia, kung 17% lang tariff natin ng tilapia na fillet o kaya whole sa Amerika, tapos ang Vietnam, which is a major supplier at 46%, and Thailand at 34% is the second major supplier, lamang tayo.
That was Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. led the signing of a joint circular between the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, and the Department of Education, or DepEd, in Malacañang Palace. The circular provides guidelines for local government units, or LGUs, to establish Child Development Centers, or CDCs, funded through the Local Government Support Fund financial assistance to LGUs. The initiative follows President Marcos's directive to the DBM last month to fund the establishment of CDCs in 4th and 5th class municipalities as a response to the limited access to early childhood care and development facilities, particularly in low-income areas. In his message, the President said a total of 328 low-income villages across the country will receive funding from the government to help them establish CDCs. The Chief Executive said low-income villages would receive the funding this year. 89 villages will be in Luzon, 106 in the Visayas, and 133 in Mindanao, including the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM. President Marcos Jr. called on the LGUs to ensure the successful implementation of the program.
In 1990, Congress passed Republic Act number 6972, which required each barangay to have at least one child development center. However, due to limited resources, the Early Childhood Care and Development, or ECCD Council, reported that as of March this year, 3,800 barangays in the country have yet to have CDCs. Too many children do not have the structured care that they need in their formative years. These challenges have been accumulating for the past 30 years, cannot be solved overnight. But that does not mean we should not begin. It should no longer be the case. Today we gather with one goal: to create a better and brighter future for our children. Today our agencies are working hard to make our education system right for our students. Last 4th March, I directed the DBM to prioritize and to fund the establishment of Child Development Centers, or CDCs, especially in the more remote barangays of Mindanao and other low-income municipalities. Our local government units will now shoulder additional costs as part of their counterpart obligation to complete the project. These CDCs are venues for the implementation of early childhood care and development center programs and services, especially the early learning programs and family support program. It can also be used as a resource center for developmentally appropriate learning materials and a laboratory for conducting research, data gathering, and innovations about early childhood. For this year, we have identified 328 low-income barangays that will now be provided with funding for them to access early childhood development initiatives. Of this number, 89 will be in Luzon, 106 will be in the Visayas, 133 in Mindanao, including BARM.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still on Thursday, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin said the planned procurement of fighter jets from the United States is crucial in strengthening the Philippines' defense posture. This after the U.S. Department of State approved the potential foreign military sale of 20 Lockheed Martin F-16 fighter jets to the Philippines for approximately $5.58 billion. Bersamin said the plan to purchase the U.S. fighter jets is not intended to harm a third party or a particular country and will be primarily used to boost Philippine defense. In a Palace Press briefing, National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya said the planned purchase is part of the US's ironclad commitment to its defense alliance with the Philippines. Malaya assured China that the plan is merely part of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP's modernization program. He also clarified that the Department of National Defense has yet to receive an official communication from the U.S. government.
We should note that the F-16 is the most advanced fourth-generation fighter in the world. And if this sale pushes through, it will be a significant upgrade to our current arsenal. We have at present 12 F-A-15 fighter jets from South Korea. However, I was told that the Department of National Defense has not yet received an official communication from the U.S. government. So as to the details of this sale, as to how soon this will happen, when will the procurement process, we will have to defer to the Department of National Defense for details. However, I'd also wish to address the statement coming from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China, wherein they said that any defense cooperation with other nations by the Philippines should not target or harm the interest of a third party, nor should it threaten regional peace and security. And we would like to assure the People's Republic of China that the planned procurement of F-16 fighter jets to the Philippine arsenal does not in any way harm the interest of any third party. It is not intended for any nation. It is merely part of the AFP modernization program.
That was National Security Council Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin on Thursday downplayed concerns over recent remarks made by Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Bronner, who urged Filipino soldiers to be prepared for a potential invasion of Taiwan. In an ambush interview in Malacañang, Bersamin explained that the call for preparedness should not cause alarm, as discussions surrounding the possibility of a Taiwan invasion have been ongoing for some time and was just part of the government's efforts to ensure that the country is ready for any eventuality. The Executive Secretary noted that while the Philippines has been preparing for the possibility of an invasion, it is not certain whether such an event would occur. Bersamin further clarified that the government's preparations focus primarily on the safety and evacuation of Filipinos in Taiwan in case of a full-scale invasion. Meanwhile, Bersamin said Malacañang has yet to receive any details relating to the report that the United States has approved the 20 F-16 fighter jets to be purchased by the Philippines for $5.58 billion. Executive Secretary explained that details are probably being sorted out. However, if the sale would push through, Bersamin said the Philippines will only use the fighter jets as part of the country's defensive force.
Yung context nung kay General Browner making that statement is there should not be any alarm on the part of the Filipinos who look or see that interview because the Philippines has been preparing for the eventuality of an invasion. We're not saying when that invasion will take place, whether it will take place at all, pero importante sa atin na hindi tayo natutulog sa pansitan. Kaya yung context ng pagsasalita ni General Browner is just to announce something that we are prepared. As far as the details are concerned, I have no awareness of them. But the principle of it, no, that the Americans would give us the material for a defensive force, a defensive stance, that's okay because the details will be worked out still. But that is not for any specific target or state. That is for our defensive posture.
That was Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Philippines Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, is ramping up its efforts to address hunger and malnutrition in the country, with a strong focus on collaboration with other sectors. In a Palace press briefing, DSWD Assistant Secretary and spokesperson Irene Dumlao said, the agency, as the lead of the Interagency Task Force on Zero Hunger, is fully committed to tackling the issue of hunger. Dumlao highlighted the DSWD's ongoing efforts to harmonize and align the various programs and services of national government agencies. The DSWD official added that the agency aims to partner with other sectors to develop sustainable solutions to ultimately address hunger and malnutrition. The DSWD Assistant Secretary also acknowledged the complexity of the issue and the factors contributing to hunger and malnutrition. Dumlao pointed to regional challenges such as the ongoing impact of the Canlaon eruption in the Visayas as contributing factors to the rise in hunger incidents in the area.
Ang Department of Social Welfare and Development bilang lead in the Interagency Task Force on Zero Hunger is fully committed in addressing the issue on hunger and malnutrition. Alinsunod po sa vision ng ating pong Pangulo, Marcos Jr., na dapat wala pong Pilipino na magiging gutom. Kung kaya nga po, tinitiyak ng DSWD na nag-harmonize, nag-align yung iba't ibang mga programa at serbisyo ng national government agencies, and that would continue to partner with the private sector so that we could collectively come up with sustainable solutions that would ultimately address the problem on hunger and malnutrition. Well, even of course, we recognize na marami pong mga factors na nakakaapekto sa issue ng hunger and malnutrition. Kaya nga po ang DSWD nakatutok tayo, we are intensifying our efforts. And as I mentioned earlier, we're working with other government agencies para mag-harmonize yung iba't ibang mga programa at serbisyo natin and talagang ma-achieve yung objective of addressing hunger. On the part of the DSWD, nire-recognize naman natin yung mga challenges. Halimbawa, no, in Visayas, protracted yung issue on Canlaon eruption. And this could be one of the reasons kung bakit nga po tumaas din yung incidence of hunger in that region. But then again, sabi ko nga po, DSWD is fully committed to ensuring na may provide natin yung kaukulang kinakailangan lalo sa pagkain ng ating pong mga kababayang naapektuhan. And that is also one of the reasons why we are scaling up the implementation of not only Walang Gutom program, but also yung mga ibang programa like Walang Gutom Kitchen.
That was Department of Social Welfare and Development Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.